Hello, welcome everybody. I'm James with Aptora, and today I'm excited to be talking about Aptora Mobile Form Builder. If you aren't aware of what it is, very quickly, it's a software program that works with Total Office Manager and our mobile app to allow you to create your own screens or templates, forms, if you will, in the mobile app. You can collect information in the app and save that to your database. Then you can go into Total Office Manager and create custom reports using that data. But what most people do is they output the data to a PDF. So they create a PDF that they want to capture data for, and they build a screen that text can use in the field in the app to collect the information and output it or save it to a PDF. That PDF is then saved on your file folder structure, however you set it up. The PDF is saved so that you can access that PDF in the field, but also in Total Office Manager back in your office. So why don't we go ahead and get started, and I'll show you how the whole thing works. Now, most people should have the designer running. I didn't go through the installation process or the setup process. It's pretty easy. Typically, you just install it and then go into your settings, pick your database, and you're done. The user manual covers all that. And when you run it for the first time, this is what you'll see. I'm going to start with a PDF. I think what we'll do is create a PDF together, and then we'll use the designer to associate with the PDF. Now, by the way, when it comes to building your PDF, it's an option. You don't have to do it. Most everybody does, but you don't have to have a PDF, and you can do the PDF later if you want to. Well, if you don't have a PDF, then what could you possibly do with the program? Well, like I said earlier, you're building a screen, a form in the app that allows you to pick customers, pick equipment, enter air filter information, things like that. And that information gets saved to your database under that customer. And you can use that information in many ways, including creating custom reports using the custom data viewer. But most people create a PDF. If you aren't aware of it, by the way, in Microsoft Word, you can build most of what you're trying to build, and then click File and go to Export here. And even though you may not see a Create Adobe PDF button, I have Adobe installed, so you're seeing that, you will have a Create PDF option right here. And that will allow you to create a PDF from your Word document, and that's how you could get started with the whole process. All right, I'm going to go ahead and run Acrobat, Adobe Acrobat, and we will work on the PDF together. Okay, let's get this over on the monitor where you can see it. All right, when you open up your Acrobat, your PDF in Adobe Acrobat, it should look something like this depending on the version you have. One of the trickiest things, for me anyway, to get used to when I started using Acrobat was how to get it into the mode where I can work on editing fields, adding fields. And they've made it a little easier since I started years ago. But what you're looking for is a button that says something like Prepare a Form. So I'm going to click that Prepare a Form, and you will notice now it looks editable. You can see these fields have become alive. Here on the right-hand side, you're looking at a list of the fields that are contained on my form. And I'm going to make this a little smaller. We'll get more, there we go. These are the fields on the right-hand side that exist on the form, and you can right-click on those to select properties. You can rearrange the order of those fields, just drag and drop them. For example, you can grab the state and move it like that. And why would you want to do that? Well, as I'm going to show you in a moment, you can import this form. There's a wizard to import this form into the app, the designer, and the fields will import in the order that you see them on that right-hand side. And that can be handy, as you'll see. All right, let's talk about the form here. I just copied and pasted an image here. That's how that image got there. Just copied and pasted. You don't have to do anything special. To add text, you grab your text field over here on the left-hand side, and you can then draw your text. Wait a minute. I did the wrong thing. Hang on. I misspoke. I meant to hit up here text right there where it says add content. I meant to click that, and there we go. All right, so let's say checkbox. I'm just going to type in a label of checkbox 1, and we will move that right up next to that box right there. And then I will make another one. And I'll just call that checkbox 2. All right, so that's how we add text to the form. In this case, I'm adding text for labels. The checkbox right here, how did I get that there? Let me show you what you missed. To do a checkbox, you just click on the checkbox here on the left and drop it out there. And that's it. Then you can double click on it to get to its properties, and you can give it a name. So let's call ours checkbox. I like to get rid of the spaces, checkbox 3. Now, on these checkboxes, you'll want to go to the Options tab and make sure Export Value says yes. Now, why do you do that? I can barely explain why. It's an Adobe thing. By default, it will say yes, but sometimes that will get cleared, that value, and just make sure that it says yes. And let's go check those others. Double click, yes. Double click, yes. Okay, so those are all good. And now I have 3 checkboxes. Since I added this text field up here by accident, I think I'll go ahead and keep it. Let's drag it down here, and I'll double click on it, and I'll say printed. I'm going to give it a name of printed name. So I'm giving the control a name, printed name. So that way, after the customer signs, we will have a printed name box sitting right there. And then what I'll do is I'll just copy that and paste. So I just highlighted it. I hit Control C, then Control V. I'm going to change the size of it, and we are going to set that right there. Double click, and I will do the name signature date. All right, now those names are very important. You want to avoid using special characters like $sign, dollar symbol, things like that. Avoid special characters, just letters and numbers. I avoid spaces. I don't even like underscores. They should be fine. Dashes and underscores should not be a problem, but I avoid them. I just do title case, no spaces like you see there, and I've had really good luck with it. The reason why the names are very important, as you're going to see when we get into the form designer, you are naming the fields in the designer to match the names of the fields in the PDF, and that's how the system knows where to send the information. So if we were to add a field called signature date in the designer and we give it the same name in the PDF, then the program knows where to send that information. It'll make more sense in a moment if it doesn't now. I'll click close. All right, so now we have a printed name and a signature date field, and we have borders on those. Let me show you the border. You can double click, go to Appearance, and where it says Border Color, just click on that and select a color that you want for the border. And I won't get too picky. I'll just pick that one. Click close. All right, so if you don't have a border, then it will look like that. So you can see I've got a border here, I've got a border there. These fields don't have borders, and you might like that, maybe not. I prefer a border. So let's just fix these while I'm at it. I'm going to use the control key, highlight that, highlight that, highlight that, and right click, and I can go to properties, and I can take care of all of those at once. All right. Down here I have description of work. Let's double click on that so you can see this. This was a text field. So I simply clicked the text field on the left-hand side, brought it over, and under options, I checked the box multi-line. And that way we can have multiple lines of text. The rest of these are just single lines. And you don't have to do anything to make it a single line. You just make sure that's unchecked, and it's unchecked by default. So let's take a look at how I did that. I'm going to click the text field, bring text out, and that's it. Double click, go to general, give it a name, and what shall I call this? Let's say, how about model number? Call it model number. There we go. All right. Now the image down here, you can see I added an image showing air going in, air coming out. I also added a text box right here. I gave it a name called air temp out dB dry bulb. And I have the same thing on the other side, air temp in dry bulb. And I'll show you what I'm going to do with those in a minute. And then I am going to add, I'll just copy paste. I'm going to add another box. And where did you go? So I lost that box somewhere. How do I find it? I can go to my list here and click on it and see it. Look how tricky that is. So I got that thing so small that I can't reach it. All right, let's get that moved. See that little guy right there? It's so small that I can't seem to reach it. Well, here's what we'll do. We'll just right click here and nope. I'm gonna have to get tricky here. Go to properties. Since I can't grab it and make it any larger, then I think I'll just resize it. There we go. And I'm going to drag that down here. Double click and give this a name of difference. There we go. So that's for the temperature difference. All right. Up here, I have a place for the customer name, and then I have the billing address, and I have some fields right here that I didn't label, and I'm going to use those for a system selector and an air filter selector, and then I have another system selector and another air filter. These are all text boxes. For the most part, you are going to use just text fields, and you're going to use check boxes. And I know this is going to sound weird, but you're also going to be using the button type of form field, this one right here, for your signature. Now, why a button? That's just how it works in Adobe. It's a weird thing. You might think that the signature would be better if it appeared in an image, but it doesn't work that way. It prefers to have a button type, and so if you pick the button type and drag it out, that's what we're using for our signature box. Now remember, the customer isn't actually signing the PDF, they're signing the app, and the signature will show up in this box. All right, what happened to my date? My date got lost, so let's get that fixed. I'm going to move that up here and get my date back to where it was. Okay, and I think I'll move the model number up here. All right, I think that's probably good enough. I have a date field up at the top, but remember that's not anything more than just a text field. So in Adobe, I should back up a little bit. In Adobe, you have something called a form field type or a form component. And the different types are a text field, an image field, a checkbox, a radio button, a drop-down list, which you never use, a list box you never use, a button you'll use just for signatures, a date field, which you don't need, a digital signature, don't need it, and a barcode, probably don't need it. What we are using almost entirely is just text boxes. These are all just text boxes. The only exception is the checkbox, which we're going to want a little check mark in it. I have that. And then for the signature, I'm using the button. The rest of these are all just text boxes. The most important thing to remember is the names. Use simple names and keep this opened so that you can go back and look at it and see what those names are when you start building the input form in the app, for the app. All right, I'm going to save my work and we're going to minimize that. Go back to Form Builder. All right, so here in Form Builder, I'm going to click Edit Templates, make that bigger, grab my user, and I am George Washington. Where are you, George? Oh, there you are. I'm blind. George Washington, logging in. All right, so here we have a list of templates available. And I'm going to uncheck the box that says Show Inactive Templates so we don't have to look at those others. These are 3 templates that I've been working on. And if I were to double click on one of them, we would be able to see what's behind it. So for example, I have a field for a date called Inspection Date. I have a company asset selector where I'm picking the company vehicle. I've got the asset number, manufacturer, model, serial. These are all fields from Total Office Manager up here. And then I have added these flip switches that would show up in the app to answer questions like the tires are in safe condition and inflated properly. This includes the spare tire. So that's how I built this vehicle inspection report. I just simply added these fields and it shows up in the app as a screen that I can pick the vehicle. I can open it from the employee's record if I want to, or from the asset. I pick the vehicle and I can fill out the form, and all of that information saves to the database, and then I can output it to a PDF if that's what I want to do. Now we're going to build one from scratch using that PDF that we were just in. So I'm going to click Add Template, and I'll give it a name for the class.
James, we have 2 questions whenever you get a chance.
Okay. All right. Let me go ahead and just save this. And then that way, if I have to go to another screen, I'll be able to. All right, now, I have my name, class template. I have an option to browse. Browse for what? We're browsing for that PDF. So I'm going to click the Browse button and double click on the PDF and select it. And now I'm going to click OK. And it asks me if I want to upload the template. You want to say yes. And now it's uploading a copy of the PDF. So it is making a copy of it, and that's important to remember, because if we ever go back and edit the original, we're not editing this PDF. It did make a copy. All right, so before I run through my import wizard, I thought I'd find out what that question is.
So the first one is, how do we email these forms in the field?
The question was, how do we email these forms in the field? It would be the same answer as emailing the invoice or the work order. When you go to invoice your work order or your invoice, you have the ability to attach an image to the work order or the invoice, and you can attach the PDF. Also, in your mobile app, you could use whatever email system you have, and you could email the PDF like you would email anything else. So you have two options. You can email from our app, attaching it to a work order or an invoice, and then you can just use your app, or pardon me, use your mobile device to send that as an email like you would an image or anything else. Was there a second question?
Yes. Are we able to pull the work order number over now? It did not have that capability a few years ago, last time I made a form.
The question was, can we bring over the work order number now? And I don't know the answer, actually, because he further said we weren't able to at one time, and I don't know that I've ever had that problem. You should be able to, but we'll find out. Maybe we can test that, but I don't really have an answer for you, because it should work, but I haven't tested that lately, or I haven't noticed that it didn't work lately. Okay, so now it's asking if I want to import the fields from the PDF template. And this is important. This will save us some time. I'm going to say yes to that. And notice there is one of 22 fields, and I'm looking at the first one. And the label right here says date, and the PDF field name says date. It's grabbing the name of the field in the PDF. So if we were to go back to that PDF and look at the date text box, remember it's just a text box, the name I gave it was date. So the label it's suggesting is date, and that's going to be fine with me. I might say today, like today's date, and I'll leave the PDF field name alone. If I needed to edit that field, I could check this little box here and edit the field name, but I'm going to leave it alone. Now, I could make this required so that you have to fill out the date, and I'll check that box. That makes sense to me. And I can also default to the creation date. That way the person doesn't have to think about populating the date. When they save it, it'll automatically be the creation date, which they can change if they wanted to. And the format, I have options. I'm going to leave the format the way it is. Remember, if I do pick a format like one of these wider ones, I need to make sure that my text box is big enough to handle that. But I'm just going to keep that format. And then I'll click Next. And now the type again is date. My field type up here is date, but that doesn't make sense for the customer name. So I'm going to change my label, customer name, and I'm going to pick text box, and I don't want the multi-line. It wouldn't be necessary, but I do want the single line. Okay, and I'm going to leave that field name alone because it's grabbing the field name, and I'll click next. Oh, it changed my name. It changed my label. Let me fix that. Okay, I'll click next. And now we have street, and I'll just click next. I'm just going to keep it the way it is. And there's this street number 2. I'll keep that the way it is. City, I'll keep it. State, keep it. Zip code, I'll change that. Change the label. I'm leaving the names alone. And then we have system type 1. And that is going to be, I'm going to use a drop down for this one. I'm going to pick the, where are you? Drop down menu. There it is. So I'll pick the drop down menu type, and I'll give the label the name system type 1. And then for option 1, I'll type in heat pump. And I'll click add. And then I'll do mini split. And I'll click add. And then I could keep going, obviously. But I'm going to type in please select right there and click add. Now I'm going to grab the please select and put it up to the top. All right. And then I'll do next. And then I have air filter 1. So air filter 1, we're going to fix that label. Air filter 1. And then I'll type in my options. So I got that one. And then I'll do that. And a second one, or a third one. I'll put that one in there. And I think I'll just keep going. I'm going to have 6 selections. Paste that. And then my last air filter size. Now I might, in real life, I might add more. 20 by 25. Let's make that a 16. There we go. And then I'll put a please select in there also. You don't have to do that, by the way. I just like to do please select. That way the default will be please select, and it'll be more obvious that they have not selected one. If the default was the first option, then you wouldn't really know if they meant to pick it or did they just forget, and that was what was already in there. All right, now click next. And it found system 2. So let's go ahead and fix that label. System type 2. And we will type in a couple of options like that. All right, and next. And it found the air filter 2. Now I'm just going to skip that. I'll click skip. And then it found description of work. So remember that name, that label is coming from the name. And the name of the field is description of work. So I'm changing the label that the technician will see on that screen, description of work. And the description of work is not going to be a drop down. We're going to want that multi-line text. And we have some options. We can have a maximum length, say 250 characters, which is pretty common, 500 characters, something like that. Many of you would love to get a 500 character description of the work, wouldn't you? So you may not need to put a maximum on there. It might be wishful thinking. You can also add placeholder text. That way you can type something in like, please describe the work. Now the description field is to help you understand what this is about, what this is for, so you could have something in there. We don't want to render the form uneditable if they type something in here, but we do like that option when the customer signs the form. When the customer signs the form, we can render it as uneditable. I'll leave that alone, and we will continue.
James, I have another question when you're ready.
And then here is my air temp in dry bulb. All right, and that is offering a multi-line text because that's what it was before. I'm going to change that, and we will go with the single line text. So the label will be air temp in DB, and next. Oh, you know what? I about made a mistake. Actually, what I want is a number. I don't want text. I want a number. So I'm going to pick the number field right there. Now I have some options when it's a number. Is this going to be used as a subtotal? No. Is it currency? No. Is it going to be used as a total of all the subtotals? No. So I have that option. I'll click next. And this is the air temp out that we saw. And same thing, we don't need any of these other options. We will click next. And we're at 15 of 22, signature of customer. Now this is where I need to pick a signature capture field. So I'm going to select signature capture. And I'm going to modify my label here, signature customer will be fine. And I have the option of including a date and a printed name. And you'll notice the fields right here. I'm going to copy these and paste them over on my other screen. You'll notice I have the names right there. And I can change those if I want to. They're editable. And what would I change them to? Well, let's go back to that PDF. We are using printed name and signature date as the names of those fields. So that's fine. Printed name, we will go with that. So I'm just going to backspace over printed name. And then the other one, you got to be really careful. These have to be exact. Signature date. And we'll modify that. Signature date. There we go. And I'll click next. Now, by the way, before I do that, the PDF field name, let's double check that. Let's go back to the PDF and it says signature customer. Signature customer. Okay, so that's good. It's going to work. Should be the same. Next, checkbox 1. All right, so what do we want? We want to grab the flip switch for the checkbox, and that will allow us to flip yes or no. So we'll leave the label alone. That'll be fine. And the default can be no or a yes. Next, found the next flip switch. And we'll just leave that alone too. Checkbox 2. That'll be fine. Next. And printed name. All right, so printed name. Let's go back to here. We have that printed name field. Well, we don't need that right now because we're using the signature that I created a minute ago. So I don't need to have this field mapped because my signature will take care of that. So I'm going to click skip. I'm not creating a field for that. Checkbox number 3, I do want that. So we're going to grab the flip switch, leave the name alone, click next. Signature date, we don't need that because of the signature property that we created. So I'm going to click skip. And we just have 2 more. Now we have model number. And the model number could contain numbers, of course. So I don't want to use a number field. I just want to use a plain old single line text field. Model number. And that'll work. And then the difference. Okay, so the difference was the 2 temperatures. Now for that, I'm going to click the formula or calculate field. That's the field type, calculate. I'll leave the label alone as difference, that's fine. And then to build this, I'm going to come down here and select my air temp in or my air temp out. In this case, it'll be the incoming temperature. And I'll click add field. And now I want to add an operator, subtraction in this case, minus, and then I'll pick that other number. And where does it get these 2? Well, keep in mind we added 2 numbers, so it's looking for those numbers. And then I'll click add field. All right, so it's going to be air temp in minus air temp out. And if I think to myself, well, that's not what I wanted, no problem. You can just get rid of those. You can undo it however you want. So in my case, what I want to do is I'm going to have air temp out. And there we go. Air temp in. Well, I gotta fix my mess up here. All right, now I got the in, and heck, I'm just gonna do that. All right, there we go. Gosh, I made that look easy, huh? I couldn't decide how I wanted to do it. I decided just don't be picky, just throw it in there. That'll be good enough. And then click finish. That's 22 of 22. All right, so now I understand we have a question. I wanted to get past the wizard before I address that question, and then I'll show you how to fix up some of these fields. What was that question?
So we have three. The first one is there any way to default to a blank line in the drop downs? We have to put NA or dashes and then these print, otherwise text aren't selecting.
Yeah, so is your mic hot, by the way? Did they hear you read that?
They probably heard me through the audio.
Okay.
At least.
Okay, I didn't know if I should repeat the question.
Yeah.
Very
Quiet, but yeah.
Very briefly, the question was, can you have a blank line be the default? And currently you can't, but we are adding a feature that's going to allow you to have a blank line. That's a good idea. I didn't think about having a blank line, but we're going to add a feature that allows you to tell the program this one doesn't count. So if you type in please select, you will have an option that says this one doesn't count as being required. So in other words, you have to pick something else. If it's a required field, then you can mark something as it doesn't count and it's still required. You got to pick something. So we should be able to take care of that. Maybe I can add a blank line to that option too. What was the next question?
Is there any way we don't have to keep retyping the label? We have some forms with lots of fields and it takes a lot of time to recreate all the labels in the forms. We asked if the tips field could be used or loaded from the PDF and we were told not at this time.
So the question is, do you have to keep typing in the field name? But I think the answer is yes, you do. There's nothing we can do about that, but I might have misunderstood part of the question because like when you're doing the import, then it's just grabbing the name of the field. So, I mean, it should be exact. You shouldn't have to change it. Maybe you were thinking about the label possibly, but either way, the answer is no, that's just how it is. But the PDF field name should be identical to what you're importing. You shouldn't have to change it. And another question?
Yes, we have one more. Have they fixed the calculation fields so they print on the PDF in currency and decimal format? We have an issue with these and had to stop using them or rig the form to get them to print correctly.
The question was, have they fixed a bug with the formula field where you're trying to use currency? And I don't know. I'm not aware of that bug, so I can't really say for sure. I do know that if you go look at the revision list, if it's not on there, they didn't fix the bug. So if you go look at the release notes and you see it, then it was supposedly fixed. And if you don't see it, then it probably almost certainly was not fixed. But that's something that I can look into. If you have a ticket in on that, by the way, a support ticket, then I can look at that and find out what happened with it. And if we didn't fix it, then I'll pursue it. So that's 2 bugs I want to pursue to see if we took care of. All right, so the import is done. If I made any mistakes during the import, it doesn't really matter because I can fix them here. I can come in here and do whatever I need to do to get those fixed. And the one thing I do need to do is I need to add the ability to select a customer. I don't have that. I have a customer name field, but I don't have the ability to select a customer. So we are going to click Add Field and pick the primary selector. Now it wants to know, what are you trying to select? Company asset, customer, customer equipment, employee, vendor. Those are your options. I'll click customer. And then what do you want? What fields do you want? When you pick the customer, what fields do you want to populate in the screen and probably on the PDF if you're creating one? So I want the customer name, and I want the bill to address and line 2, and I want the city and the state and the zip code, and I want a phone number and an email. All right, click OK to that. Oh, I got to give it a field name. I'm not importing it, so it didn't populate the field name. So I'll give it a field name of customer selection. All right, very good. OK to that. Now it dropped all those onto the form. And where are you? Oh, there you are. All right. So now that I have those fields on there, I need to arrange them. And I know one thing that I want to do is add the ability to drag all of these up there, because I have to drag these one at a time, and I hate to make you sit through it, but that's what I'm going to do, is get all of these up here. So customer name is at the top, and that's up at the top. All right. Let's see. So here's where I'm at. Today's date. Then I have a customer ID. I'm going to put that at the top. Then I have the customer name. And you notice it says read-only text. These are all read-only text because it's going to populate that automatically. I'm going to come down here and grab the rest of these. All right. And then I need my city. Put the city right there. And my bill to zip code right there. And I need my phone number and my email up here. All right, and I can fine tune these. So I have my phone number, email together, and also we need to do a little cleanup. We have the customer name. I'm just double checking my work. Bill to, address to, state, and then see this customer name. Well, that's left over from the wizard, and I don't need it because adding the customer selector took care of that. So I can get rid of this. And I need to also get rid of this. I don't need that any longer. And I don't need that one. I don't need that one. And what else? Zip code, don't need that. Okay, I think that was it. So they, just to be clear, they came over when we were doing our import. There's the difference. I'm going to bring that difference up here. Right there. Okay, so I got to fix these fields. We're going to go to customer name and click edit. And the PDF field name, I need to edit that because it has to match the line that I want to populate. And we have customer name, street 1, street 2, etc. So this needs to be customer name. So that it can find that field on the PDF. All right, that should fix that. And we're going to edit this one. And this was address 1. So again, we have to be sure that we're matching that street 1, not address 1, right? So that wouldn't have worked. Street 1. And this one is Street 2. And then that city needs to be just above that. All right, and we'll change that to city. And you can just double click to put that in edit state. And the zip code. Zip code. Now I have seen just the case of these cause problems. So like you notice I have zip code title cased, as we call it, the Z and the C. I've seen people have this lowercase and it didn't work. So just be really careful with those naming conventions. All right, so that should take care of our customer information. When you go pick the customer, it's going to automatically populate each of these fields. And as long as the field name matches here to the PDF, it will fill it out. Come down here to signature, and I have signature customer, signature date, and printed name, just making sure that that was correct. And it should be fine. All right, I think we're ready to try it out. Let's go ahead and go back. And the first thing we want to do is activate this template. So we have our template right here. I'll highlight it and I'll click the activate button. And now it's activated. And I'm going to, with it highlighted, I can right click for options, by the way, but I'll go up to properties, not properties. I'll go up to options. And I now need to tell it, where do I want the class template to show up? I want it to show up in the customer form, and I want it to show up in the work order form, and maybe I would want it to show up in the sales opportunity form, perhaps. So I'll stick with those two selections, customers, work orders. Click OK. That tells it where they show up. And now it's active, and I've told it where they show up. So what's next? What's the next step? We need to go into mobile. So I have mobile running here. I need to log out because I'm logged in as a regular user. So I'm going to log out and log back in as the administrator. And that way I know I have permission to do what I want to do. All right, I need to remember the password for the administrator. Well, what is that password? Well, too many passwords to remember. Okay, there we go. What was that, 6 tries? I did it. Trouble is, I don't want to update it. I have other accounts that use the same administrator for the mobile. That's probably how I got in trouble. All right, so now I'm logged in as the administrator. I'm going to click More, Plugins, and Form Builder. And this is in our user manual, by the way. So once I get into Form Builder, you can see the forms here, and I need to give people permission. There's the class template, for example, right there. So I need to click the hamburger menu and go to Security and find a user. And we will say, we'll go back to George. And you can see he doesn't have permission for any of these. So I'm going to give him permission to do everything on the class template. Hit save. And then I can copy out permission to others here if I want to. I'm going to go ahead and log out. And now he has permission. Log back in as a regular user. And then I can open up a work order or a customer. I'll just grab this one. And we click the hamburger menu, go to Forms, and we should see it. Class template right there. Click on it. Now, what we have here is a list of none. This can be kind of confusing, is why I'm pointing it out. When you first come in here, you might be expecting to create a form, which you can do, but when you first come in here, you land on this page, you're looking at other forms that were created for this work order, not the customer, the work order. If we went into the customer, we would see forms that were created for the customer as a whole, but we're seeing forms created for the work order, and there weren't any. So we'll click the hamburger menu, create form. Now you can see you have a completely functional form. So this thing is really like you're a programmer with no code. It's no code programming. If you've heard that term, we built this before that term was even a term that was used on a regular basis. But without writing any code, you built your own app, a form in the app. So it's a completely functional form. I'll pick a date, and there's the customer info. And then I will pick a system, say mini split, air filter, pick one of those, pick another option, and description of work. Let's grab some descriptions here. Paste something in there so we can test it. All right, so I got a nice big description of work in there. And if you want to make it bigger, by the way, you can just grab that corner to make that box larger. And then we have temp, air temp in, and we'll say in is 100, and we'll say out is 80. And it says NA right now. It calculates when I hit save. And then when we're ready, we can have the customer sign. We have a place for their printed name and the date. And I could have defaulted, by the way, that date, so we didn't have to pick it, which wouldn't have been a bad idea. And then here's our check boxes. So this could be clean, or I checked this, I did that, I did something else. And then the model number down here. I'll just type in, not that. Type in something like that. There we go. All right, and then we can save and come back and edit it. So why don't we just click the save button? Or no, I'm going to go ahead and sign. So we'll have the customer sign it. Start over. Just hit clear. Get them to sign. Click save. And there we go. Then I can click the hamburger button, and I can make a copy of the form, which this is a relatively new feature. I can make a copy of it, which is completely editable. So let's say that you had a form and you had a ton of info on it, and you had them sign, maybe it was a year ago, you had them sign it. Well, that's a completely uneditable form. But you have all this information that you want. Well, you can make a copy of it, and then it's completely editable. You can find other forms, clicking here. You can delete it if you had permission, and then you can generate report. What generate report always means is create a PDF. I don't know why we didn't just type in create PDF, but it's generate report. Click that. Now, if you get an error right now, that's a permission issue, and I wouldn't doubt that I will get an error because I did a big update, and sometimes Windows updates can do that, and I've also been moving some files. So we'll see Okay, good. I didn't get the error. Again, if you get an error there, the error will most likely say something like, I can't find the template, I can't find the PDF, and that's a permission issue. Assuming that it's there, it should be. Assuming that that PDF is there, it couldn't get to it. And again, that's usually because of a permission issue. All right, so let's take a look at our form here. We have our check boxes, and I think I said yes on all three, right? Well, why didn't those populate? The name was wrong. The name was wrong. That's why they didn't populate. And we have the customer info here. And the second line right there didn't populate because we didn't have anything in it. And the mini split right there, there's no border, so we'd want to fix that. And option 2, there's no border, so I'd probably want to have a border there. And there's that model number. Now normally we would have a label that says model number, and we probably would want a border. And there's our description, and look, the description cut off. So there's where we might want to test it, figure out how tall that box needs to be, and then limit the number of characters so that we don't have this issue. There isn't any way to expand it, at least the last time I looked, there wasn't any way to expand it. There could be now. I should go back and look at that at some point. But last time I looked into it, you couldn't tell the PDF, make this box bigger if needed. It wasn't possible. And then we can see our little diagram here. We have 80. In real life, I'd make this look a little better. The numbers would be larger and so forth. But I've got the 80 and the 100, and there's the difference, the 20 down there. So that form is working pretty well. Now, how do we fix it? We just simply go back and double check those names. We'll probably find that they are wrong. In fact, let's do that. So here we have the checkbox, and that was checkbox 1. Let's double click that. See my name? My name had a space in it, and that's a no-no. I told you guys, no spaces. Checkbox 1. We'll fix that. And then double click, probably the same story. Checkbox 2 with a space. All right, so I got that fixed. Let's look at this one. You notice that it is working because there's no space. In fact, again, I would match that case very carefully. It'll probably work fine, but you want to even have the case the same. So Street 1 didn't work. Let's have a look at that. Street 1.
James, we have 2 questions whenever you get a chance.
So let's go into the designer and see what the problem was. We had the customer name, then we had bill to, Street 1, and Street 2. All right, I got a question pending, but that'd be something you want to look into to get fixed. It may be that there is just no data. Oh, I know what it was. The database for the Street 1 in that database, they repeated the customer name, so it was actually working correctly. Okay, so I understand we have a question.
Is there any way to streamline adding security to users? We have almost 500 technicians to modify security for when we need to add a new form.
So the question was, is there a faster way to do the security? And not right now, there isn't. But one thing that's on the drawing board for the app, and we'll start with app permissions and do form builder permissions later. But one thing that's on the drawing board is the ability to select many people and then establish all their permissions rather than use the copy feature. So you'll be able to pick 50 people and copy all the permissions into those 50 people. Or we may make it so that you can pick 50 people and then do the permissions. I'm not sure which we'll do, but right now the answer is no, there's no easier way, but that is on the drawing board. And I didn't even think about form builder. We need to do the same thing for form builder. I hadn't thought about the fact that if we're going to change the app's permissions, we should do form builder's permissions too, the same way. Another question?
Can the technician now add pictures to a PDF?
The technician cannot add pictures to the PDF. There isn't a way to make that happen. Is there another one? He's looking to see if there's another question. While he's doing that, let me say this. Once you start populating forms, you cannot go back into the designer and edit the data entry form. You can still edit the PDF. Our user manual tells you where to find the PDF. There's a place where we store them. But if you go to that place, you can open up the PDF and you can modify the PDF because it's stored as a template. Now, keep in mind, when it creates these PDFs, it's creating copies from the template. So you're not affecting the original. It's always sitting there. If you go back to that original, you can fix typos, add things to it, make changes to it. It won't affect any of the PDFs that were created because they've been created and they've been stored on your hard drive. Nothing you can do about that, but you can change the PDF so that when you make changes, when you populate it, those changes will be seen. You just can't change what you built in the designer. If you need to make a change, then what you need to do is make a copy of it, and kind of like you do in Total Office Manager when you want to make a change of an inventory item that you've been using, it add the word old to the end of the name, make a copy of it, and go from there. Otherwise, if you're experimenting like I am, then one thing you can do is, well, let's just do it. Let me just show you. You can go, all right, let me go back here. All right, forgot where I was. You can go find the template in the list and open it and delete it. So once I delete them, again, this wouldn't work if you had hundreds of them out there for your customers. But once you delete that experimental template, because we're still in the process of developing it, right? Once you do that, then you'll notice the form count is now 0. And if you need to, you can right click and do refresh. But you'll see the form count is 0. Now we can edit it. So I can go back into it and make changes as needed. So I'm going to fix that checkbox for one thing. And you notice the PDF field name had an underscore, and I didn't want that. So we'll get rid of that. And we'll edit that field, get rid of that underscore. And number 3 should be fine because it was working. And now those checkboxes should be fixed. Another thing I can do to make this look a little better is I can add a header. I'll click Header Begin. And I need to give it a name, or I need to give it a label rather. So let's do Header Begin again. Let me type in the name. Let's do customer information. All right. And it's down here at the bottom. I'm going to bring it up to the top, and I'm going to put it right under the date. And then I'll click Add Field, and I will get a header end. And you don't give it a name. And we'll drag the end header up and put it at the bottom of the customer's info. So right here under email. All right, so now what will that do? Many of you probably already used that, but if you haven't, in the app, we would now not see all the customer fields until we clicked a button. And when you click a button called Customer Information, it expands to expose all of those customer fields. That way you can have lots of information collapsed inside of a header, and you just click each header to open them. The way the feature works again is you add the header, the begin, to the top, and then you bring in a header bottom or end, and you place it where you want that information, the collapsing information, to stop. Questions?
Yes. If you have an existing template but make an update to the PDF, can you replace the PDF as the output file without redoing the whole template?
Yeah, so the question was, if you update a PDF to an existing template, can you replace the original PDF? And yes, you can. So what happens is, let me navigate to that folder real quick. Okay, so on my computer, yours could be a little different, but here's where they are. All right, so in users, public documents, Aptora templates, I have my files, and you'll notice I have the webinar exercise, and it's got today's date on it. If I just open this and edit it, I'm editing the template that we're using, because whenever you create the PDF in the field, it's simply making a copy of whatever is in this folder. And so from the moment you edit it and save, you'll be using the updated PDF. You just can't, to be clear, you just can't change the original data input template. All right, other question?
What permissions are necessary to open/allow Form Builder?
What permissions are necessary for Form Builder? You need to, and do you know if they were asking about user permissions?
I'm not sure. They just asked what permissions.
So I'll cover both real quick. User permissions, you need to go in and give someone permission to see the template. So they have to have permission to see the template, otherwise they won't be able to access it. It won't be available. So step number one is give the technician access to the template. Also, you need to be a Total Office Manager user, and you have to have your security set up so that you can use Form Builder. So you have to have permission to be able to log into Form Builder. So if you're a creator, you got to be in Total Office Manager, and you have to have permission to use the Form Builder. If you're a technician, you need to have permission to access that template, that form. And they also need, I guess it's obvious, but they need permission to get to the record to create the form from. So, they need permission to get to the work order list or the customer list or wherever you're accessing. If it's file permissions you were talking about, and it's good to know this anyway, you have to give, now this is a bit technical, forgive me if you're not into this, but if you're having trouble accessing the templates, you're getting errors, then you have to give permission to the folder so that the mobile app can get to it. So the mobile app has to have permission to get to that folder to be able to make copies, write data, etc. So a common problem around here is in tech support is I'm getting an error, template not found, PDF not found. That's usually it. It's just a Windows permission thing, easily fixed.
And then we have two people asking if you can cover remote selector.
Remote selector, yes. So let's do remote selector next. You might remember earlier I created a primary selector, and that was to pick the customer. So picking the customer was the primary selector. And since I deleted the only form that we created in the app, I can add this. So I'm going to click Add Field, and I'm going to pick Remote Selector. Now, what's a remote selector? Probably just showing it to you, it'll be obvious. I'll give it a label of, I don't know why I'm picky about labels. Select Equipment. So I'll give it a label, Select Equipment. The PDF name defaults to select_equipment. And I'm going to edit that and get rid of the underscore. It may be fine. I don't like them. And then I'm going to pick what am I selecting? Just like with the primary selector, I can pick a company asset, like a truck. I can pick a customer, but I'm already doing that. And I can pick their equipment. That's what I want. Now, when I pick their equipment, it asks me, well, what information do you want? Customer ID? No. Customer name? No. Description of the equipment? Yeah. Manufacturer number? Or, pardon me, manufacturer's name? Yes, that'd be good. Model? Serial? Keep in mind, just because I pick it here doesn't mean that I have to add it to the PDF. You probably would in most cases, but you don't have to. You might collect certain information that you don't output to the PDF. The customer doesn't need to see it, for example. So just because it's in the app doesn't mean you have to go to the PDF and add it. Type of equipment? Yeah, why not? Location? Sure. Install date? Sure. In service? Sure. I'll take it all. All right, so we'll click OK, and now we have created the selector, which is going to be a button that we click to pick the equipment, and we have the ability then to populate the PDF with all of that information. Now, this information will be in the app no matter what. We will see it in the app, but do you want to put it in the PDF? How would you do that? Pay attention to the name, select equipment _ description. Right there. So that name's important. In fact, a nice feature would be a button to copy all these to my clipboard. I should look into that. Select equipment _ description. All right, let's go back to that PDF. Let's make a copy of one of these. And then again, you got to get that name right. Select equipment _ description. Select equipment _ selection. And description. Why did I say selection? Lost my changes. All right, so we got to get that right. Select equipment _ description. Select equipment _ description. It's hard to type where I'm sitting. All right, there we go. I won't make you go through all of them, but that's it. That right there, when I pick the piece of equipment in the app will show all the fields. When I generate the PDF, I'm going to show just one thing so far, the description of the equipment. That's all we'll see. And then I would just keep adding as needed the rest of these fields. But you know what? I need to write down a copy paste feature. That would be helpful. Hit a button and at least I could paste those into Notepad and I go into the PDF and be a lot easier.
We have 2 questions, James.
All right, 2 questions. Fire away.
Can you use remote selector to move over the work order number?
Can you use the remote selector to move over the work order number? No, you can't. Trying to think of how else we could get that in there. The work order number. No. I can't think of a way to get that work order number in there. Yeah, I can't think of a way to do that at the moment. But I see the value in that. I think that what they're asking is when you create a form from a work order, you want the work order number, and that's currently not an option. It's not part of the customer info. So I can see how that would be useful. Other question?
We recently added forms to the equipment. Can you add the customer address fields to the remote selector for customer?
The question was, can you add the customer info, contact info? Was it contact info?
It was the address.
Oh,
Customer address.
customer address to the remote selector?
Yep.
Yeah, I think we could do that. Let's see here. Let me check something real quick. Now, by the way, if you didn't know it, you can now have multiple remote selectors. Back when we first added that feature, you could only have one remote selector. You can only have one primary selector, but now you can have multiple remote selectors. So on the remote selector, I may be misunderstanding the question, but you can pick a customer, but you wouldn't want to pick a customer again. Would you mind give me that question again, please?
I said, we recently added forms to the equipment. Can you add the customer address fields to the remote selector for customer? Right now, we are having to add a customer to the form just so we can get the address info to print. If we make the customer equipment a remote option, the technicians cannot see the model and serial information.
Oh, I see. Yeah, we can look into that. Yeah, no way to do it now, but we can definitely look into that. All right, so you can have more than one remote selector. You can't change these field names. I've been asked that before. Those aren't editable. So that may be something we could do someday, but there really isn't much of a need for it. So we just didn't. All right, I'm going to click Add Field and just make sure I talk about some of these real fast. It sounds like a lot of our users are using it, which is great. So maybe they know this already. But we didn't talk about the phone number. That's pretty obvious. The read-only text. Now, this can be really handy when you want to have a block of text in the app. It doesn't do anything for your PDF, but you could have a block of text in the app that gives them instructions. Now, to be clear, I misspoke. You could populate the PDF if you wanted to with it. But really what it was designed for was giving instructions to the app user where you want to tell them something that's important. So read-only text allows you to just type in instructions. And then the created by and created date we added. It's been quite a while, but it wasn't one of the original things in the program. That is for those of you that like having the feature in Total Ops Manager where you can open up a form and at the bottom you see who created it and the date and who last modified it and the date. So that allows you to see the created by and the created date if you want to add that information. And that's it. That's all the fields. I think we talked about every one of them. The one that trips the most people up, I think, is the remote selector and the primary selector and getting those field names correct. These right here. That's what generates a lot of phone calls. Get those names wrong. And even I was struggling with it, but I'm trying to talk on camera and type, and I don't do either one very well. So you combine them together, it's difficult. All right, now let's go back and talk about a couple of features in here that are important because we're going to give you a template for free. We're going to post the number here. Whenever you guys are ready, you can post it. You can post the coupon code. We're going to give you a coupon code which allows you to go to aptora.com and buy a template for free. So when you put in the coupon code, it'll just zero everything out and you'll be able to download it. Well, how do you get it in there? There's instructions, but let me just show you. You can click the Import Template button and a dialog opens up like you're used to, and you just navigate to that file and that's it. It'll ask you, are you sure? You know, are you sure? Are you sure you're sure? A couple of those, yes, yes, and it'll import it. And then it'll be something you still need to activate and give permission for and all that, but it's as if you created it yourself. It includes the PDF and the screen design. It just gets imported automatically. Also, you can export by highlighting one of these and clicking the export button, and you could share it with somebody. Maybe somebody likes your work, maybe they live in another state, and you want to share a form you created. That's how we do it here. If we build you a form, and you can hire us to build forms for you, we'll build the PDF, we'll build the screen, we'll do all that. You can hire us to do it if you wanted to. We just build it in here and click the export button and email it to you. So you can do that with your friends if you'd like. The copy button, pretty obvious. We talked about the properties and options. Again, the options here allow you to indicate where you want that form to show up. You still have to have permission to get to the template, but this is where you decide where the template will show up. And properties, once you began to use it, you can't change the output file, of course, and you can't change the name. You can only change the description. And then delete. Remember, you can only delete when the form count is at 0. You can right click if you're experimenting, look to see if it's 0. So that means we can delete it, and we can also edit that. And the show inactive templates, pretty self-explanatory. Right click, self-explanatory options, I think. And that is it. That's all there is to it. Build your own forms. Now you can, to give you some ideas on what you can build, I'll show you a couple that I've made. Where are you? There you are. So, here's an idea of a comprehensive checklist for tune-ups. And you can use the math formulas to do basic calculations. And then you can make a employee performance review right here. Now, this is a fully functional PDF. I mean, this is a fill in the blanks PDF like you're used to. Nothing's different about it. It's just that it has the ability to accept information from our mobile app using Form Builder. So right here, it would just get filled out either by typing something right here. I mean, I could type in the person's name right there. But what I can also do is create a template for this, go to the employee's record, open it, have the employee information get filled out automatically, and then I can evaluate them. And when I save it, it's saved to their record in Total Office Manager. They may not have permission to get to it. Maybe only I can get to it, HR can get to it, but you can create things like this for doing your annual reviews, your quarterly reviews, whatever you want to create. You could also have other HR related forms like a discipline notice, employee notice of discipline. And remember, again, when it gets filled out, it's filled out in the app. But you could be using a tablet sitting next to the person, filling it out, and you hit the save button. And I lost my mouse. You hit the save button, and it's in the employee record. Let's see. How about one more? Oh, how about two more? This one I like. Oh, that's not it. This one. So this is our pre-sales checklist, and we really use this. And you notice it's not very attractive. We didn't really worry about making this nice looking because it was the pre-sales checklist. When we made the sale, or if we thought we were going to make the sale, we would fill this out so we don't have to come back. And then the vehicle inspection report, we talked about that earlier. That's what it looks like as a PDF. And then last but not least, how about the safety injury report? So we went to the web, got the Form 301, just a standard form from the government's website. And we cleaned it up a little bit, made it a little bit easier to read, but then we just added fields like I showed you. Again, how do I do that? Click Prepare Form. And now it's, completely editable. And you just add these and build it out like we saw earlier. And now you can pull out your tablet and you can fill this out on your tablet and hit save, and the data's in the database. But you can also generate a PDF. And if you weren't aware of it, many of you sound like you're using it, but when you generate the PDF, it's automatically added to the document links in the work order, customer, vendor, employee, wherever you came from. In this case, it'd be the employee. When you generate the PDF, it creates that PDF, and that PDF is in the document links. So in Total Office Manager, back in the office, and again, you could be sitting in a parking lot with your tablet. The minute you generate that PDF, the office has that PDF. As fast as electrons can fly through the air, they'll have that PDF in the office and they can be looking at it instantly. So you can create lots of different forms. The idea was to try to make Total Office Manager play nicely with Excel, because everybody uses Excel and you'll never replace it. And also everybody creates PDFs and use PDFs. So we wanted to play nicely with PDFs also. Do we have any final questions?
Can it be required for techs to fill out a form before closing a work order?
No. So the question was, can it be required to fill out a form before you do something? In this case, the question was a work order. So before you're done with a work order, can we require a form be filled out? The answer is no. Originally, we thought about doing that, and we just thought, what's to prevent them from filling out the form improperly, or just creating the form without going through with it, and then they were done. And you would, it's easier to know the form didn't exist than to know the form was filled out with bad info. But that was our original thinking, and I still believe that. But I do think it makes sense to add that feature. So that's on the to-do list, to add that capability. We just won't be able to make sure it gets filled out properly, short of having the features that are already in there requiring certain fields. And also, I think it'll be very helpful to be able to put in something like, please select, and that doesn't count as a selection. That's something I'm looking forward to getting done. Other question?
We can only see the form if the technician hits generate report. Is there another way? Some of our techs get logged out of Aptora when they hit generate report.
So that question was, sometimes when the tech hits generate report, they get logged out. Number one, that's something that we need to look into and help you troubleshoot, because that shouldn't be happening. I mean, I haven't had that happen to me at all. So that shouldn't be happening. We need to try to resolve that. But secondly, it's important to understand when you hit generate, you're creating the PDF, but you've already saved the data to your database. So the question was, is there any other way to see the data? You still can go to the list and find it. So let me just show you. Let me go back to my app. So when you come here, even though you didn't generate the PDF, that process could have failed. If the save didn't fail, then it will be here and you can still generate the PDF. Open it, generate the PDF. You can generate the PDF later, but it should still be here. Also, the data is in the database and you can create a custom report using the custom data viewer. If you go to your custom data viewer, you'll notice that we have built into it a query for your form builder data, and you can create custom reports for that. So that's possible as well. But I would just go in here and just open it. And remember, when you open it, you're looking at the screen of data, and you can hit generate if you want to and create that PDF.
Can you show us Tom's side?
Can I show Tom's side? Yes. Let me get Tom running. Surprised I didn't have it opened already. I should have thought of that. All right. Logging into that same database. Making sure. Okay, yep, that's the one. All right, so what happens when you save a form and you generate the PDF, then you will find that whether it's a vendor, a bill, an employee, work order, whatever it was, wherever you came from, you will find that in the document links. So when you click document links here, you will see those forms and you can open those PDFs. They'll be in here. Only when you generate a PDF though. And to show you the custom data view that we talked about, we click custom data view, data views, and give me a minute to scroll. I need to add a search to this. Been meaning to do that. Just haven't gotten to it. I don't think we ever thought we'd have 300 of these. We didn't put a search in the beginning because I think when we first thought of this feature, we put in like 3 or 4 or 5 of these and we thought maybe we'd have 20, but now we have hundreds. Form builder. I'm looking for my form builder templates. I think I passed them. Oh, okay, there they are. So here we have all of our form builder data. We have the current month and the current year. And then, of course, if you've used this feature before, you can then filter it further. You can add or remove columns. You can filter it with dates, things like that. And then you can come in here and build the report. So let's click add new. Bring this over. And then in your report designer, it will find all of the fields that you've added to the form builder. And then you can build a report. What a lot of people do, well, most people, I don't think, build reports for it. But if you wanted to, I think what most people do is just build a column type of report, like something you'd find in Excel, just so you can look at the raw data. Another option you have, of course, is, as you've seen elsewhere, you can right-click and export it or put it into Excel. So the main thing that I wanted to show you here was where you would find the ability to make your own report using the data, and then where you find those PDFs. Just remember, right-click. You don't even have to open the record, and open up their document links, and they'll be in here. And then your master list for documents is here. So under Company, Document Manager, open a PDF here and it doesn't open and you get an error that it can't access it, that's what I was talking about before. That's a Windows permission thing. It's easy to fix, but it just means that it can't get to the folder because it doesn't have permission. It also could mean that it can't get to the network for some reason. You might not be connected to that server, that hard drive, the network, or whatever, but it's just a typical file access problem. Other questions?
This one says they built the form before PDF. How do you create it in a PDF?
So the question was, they built the form, the template, before a PDF. So now, how do they get it into a PDF? One thing, you got to build it. One thing I really wanted to do years ago is, and it was so challenging and the demand wasn't there, I really wanted to build the reverse of the import wizard. So it would create a PDF for you, and it might be ugly, like it would just throw all the fields onto a form and you'd have to rearrange them and clean them up, something like that. But We don't have such a thing. So you will have to go in and build the PDF. Now, remember, you need to look at your template and pay attention to all of the names that you gave all those fields in the app and match those in the PDF. I will show you a little known feature here. Oh, and I deleted it. Let's see if I can find one of them. All right, let's go to Form Builder. I did lots of deleting before the class today so I could get things cleaned up. And when you know it, I deleted that template. Here's what I was going to show you. When you come into the list of templates, oh, I can get it here. You can click definitions. Under security, click definitions. And what that will do is it'll open up a page that shows you a list of all of the fields that are available. So here's what you're looking at here is the field name in the app and the field name in the PDF if there was one. You won't have any because you haven't made your PDF. But if you take this, you can just copy and paste this into, say, Notepad. These are all of the fields in your template. So those are the names that have to exist in your PDF. And this is a great place to go to troubleshoot. If you're not able to populate a field in the PDF and you don't know why, like that checkbox we saw earlier, we had 2 checkboxes that weren't populating. We could have come in here and found those and made sure they matched their corresponding name in the PDF. So that's where you can go at least to get all of the names, and that might be a little easier on you. But the short answer to your question is you got to make the PDF just like we were making it before. The order doesn't matter. Other questions?
So this one is going back to if you have hundreds of forms saved under a particularly extensive template created, and now you need to change or add a few items. Currently, we cannot make these changes on the designer, save it, and start utilizing. The only option is to start from scratch with a copy. Will this always be the case, or may this be looked at? And if so, will this be looked at so that it is easier in the future?
Yeah, so let me make sure that we're all clear on this. Maybe we are. When you have a form like this service report card, 695 of them have been filled out. So I can go in here and view the fields, but I can't edit any of them. What I can do is I can edit the PDF template, not a PDF that's already been filled out, but I can edit the template so that from this day forward, I've fixed the address or I've updated the logo or whatever. So I have the ability to update the PDF that it's making copies from, but I can't change this because I have all these records saved to it. Now, the reason why is because if you think about it, I would be changing things that have already been filled out, potentially signed. So it'd be like, I'm able to change your lease on your building. It's already been signed. I can go in and change the lease. I can change the terms, the fields, things like that, and keep your signature. And also all of these fields have been saved to the database in a very structured way. And to go in and edit them is changing that table for that template. So it's very tricky to do it. And in many cases, it's not a good idea because it could be a document that somebody has signed and we don't want to change that. So what do you do about it? You make a copy. You're not getting rid of the original. You're just making a copy of it. And you would give it a name of like, potentially, Service Report Card, March 3rd, 2025. You put the date on it. And that could go in the description. But from that point forward, you'd be using it. And you would just inactivate the other one. Now, what's the disadvantage of that? Well, keep in mind, clicking copy, it makes an instant copy. It's instant, so it's completely editable. It doesn't get rid of any of those PDFs that people have been filling out. They're all still where they were. None of that ever changes. It just allows you to just make a copy and move forward with a revised version. So there's really no disadvantage. You still have all the old ones. They're still where they were in the past. And I think part of the question was, do we have any plans to change that? Not right now, unless I'm missing something, and you're welcome to ask a follow-up question. But unless I'm missing something, I don't see a compelling reason to allow it when it could create so many issues with things that are already signed. You know, they're already out there. They've been signed and they've been filled out, and I don't want to mess with them.
I think you're good.
Okay, is that it? All right, that's all the questions. I made a few notes on features here. I was just looking at my notes. I wanted to make sure that I explained the importing and the exporting capability. Also, I want to remind everybody of Aptora University. I know time's running out. Maybe it's a last minute thing. Maybe you can drive here, but Aptora University is on March 17th, 18th, and 19th. We do train on Form Builder also, but we get deep into Total Office Manager, deep into accounting, and deep into workflow. We talk a lot about standard operating procedures, the workflow, the best practices, what was the software built to do, and how can you use it differently. And we always have time to address specific questions, specific problems. That doesn't work like that for us. You know, it doesn't work like that for us. We need to do it a different way. We always have time to address those things. So hopefully I'll see you there. Final call for questions.
If the template is inactivated, can you still see all the completed PDFs?
Yes, the question was, if you inactivate the template, can you still see all of those PDFs that are out there? Yes, absolutely. That doesn't change at all. And I'm glad you asked that, because I probably didn't do a good job of making that clear. If you have a service report card and you filled out 700 and you realize you need to add a piece of data, make a copy, add the data, inactivate the old one, and start using the new one. What doesn't change is all those PDFs that are sitting out there, they're still out there. You can still open them, still access them. None of that changes. It just means from this moment forward, we're using the new one and the old one's inactivated.
How do we get the software update done on mobile?
How do we get the software update done on mobile? I'm wondering if you're asking, how do you update mobile? And that is done through a utility. You run our update utility, the configuration utility, that updates your mobile. There's two components. There's the mobile app, which you rarely ever have to update, because the app is just the shell of the program. The real meat of the program is updated on your server. Wherever you have mobile installed, there is an update utility that you run, and that updates mobile.
Do we have any updates on next gen?
Updates on next gen. Yeah, it's probably time to do another webinar and talk about next gen. We are fixing bugs like crazy. Well, not so much anymore. We're kind of past that. We had been fixing bugs like crazy. People are using it, putting transactions through it. We've had tons of issues like we expected. None of it major, but just little things like you can't print this or can't email that, or I went to process a payment and the approval code doesn't copy over for Visa and MasterCard, just lots of things like that. So we're getting through all of that. We're still adding features and capabilities. As I mentioned, we want to be a feature match, especially the little things like all the right-click menus and all the shortcuts. We want to get all of that in there, and we're making really good progress. But yeah, I think that's about all I know to say about it. Every day we're adding features. Every day we're fixing bugs. At some point, hopefully, we're going to run out of things to do except add cool and exciting stuff. But, for now, it's just a matter of getting people to test it and getting them to give us feedback so that we can make that fix. All right, I think that wraps up our questions then. I'm told that is it. I want to thank everybody for being here, especially if you hung in there through this whole thing. That's impressive. Look forward to seeing you next month. I'm not sure what our topic's going to be, but we'll have to get some feedback from all of you and come up with a really good topic. Thank you very much for being here on behalf of all of us from Aptora. We appreciate you being our customers. You're the reason why we exist, and I will see you in the next one. Good night.